The Warriors got down 16 at half against the Portland Trail Blazers in their second game of the 2025-26 preseason as the bench unit of Brandon Podziemski, Jonathan Kuminga, Quintin Post, Buddy Hield, and Gary Payton II were a combined minus 61 after a quarter. With the Warriors then going down by as many as 21 after trailing for the entire game, they finally would go on a run in the fourth quarter, led by a unit of L.J. Cryer, Pat Spencer, Quintin Post, Will Richard, and Taevion Kinsey / Guy Santos, which fueled the Warriors to outscore the Blazers 50-26 in the fourth quarter. Pat Spencer had a beastly and one. L.J. Cryer said he Steph by pulling up in transition to take the lead. Cryer then dropped in a Curry-esque floater from the foul line after crossing his man over, which helped seal the win. While Cryer may not make the roster, as he's on an Exhibit 10 contract, what a damn good opportunity this was for the 23-year-old undrafted product of Houston to showcase his skill set. Quintin Post did so as well, as the Warriors' backup center posted 15 fourth-quarter points. Erasing the early woes of the second unit, the third stringers in Will Richard, L.J. Cryer, Taevion Kinsey, combined with Post and Spencer, outscored the Blazers by 77 points. There were a lot of issues to start this game, specifically with the second unit, highlighted by their minus 61 output, but it was nice to see the Warriors' depth pull through. Pieces like Post and Spencer, and even Richard, are going to be key bench pieces throughout the regular season, so seeing them contribute on both ends to secure the Dubs' second dub of the preseason was a good sign of things to come. Post looked confident taking tough shots under pressure, while Spencer posted 6 points, 3 dimes, 3 boards, and a steal in just 12 minutes. Also in just 12 minutes, L.J. Cryer exploded for 14 points on 3-for-3 shooting from deep, while being a game-high plus 25. Shout out to Cryer for fueling this W with lethal shot making down the stretch, as without him, this would have been a major momentum killer for the Dubs. Because the preseason is all about developing said momentum, and while these games don't count towards a team's 82-game record, these exhibitions are all about building up the habits that you want to carry over once the real games begin. Most of the Warriors' regulars didn't do a good job of establishing good habits against the Blazers, as they were allowing easy blow-bys defensively, being careless with the ball offensively, and generally playing without the sense of urgency it takes to win basketball games. That's what the preseason is really for, as I said, developing habits, but also building chemistry and setting the tone for what kind of team you're going to be once the lights turn up and the games actually count. It's easy to overlook these exhibition matchups as meaningless, but in reality, they're where a team's foundation gets laid. The Warriors' comeback against Portland was the perfect example of how habits, both good and bad, begin to show themselves. In the first half, they were careless with the ball, slow to rotate defensively, and overall lacked urgency. That version of the team looked disjointed and unsure. But by the fourth quarter, when guys like L.J. Cryer and Pat Spencer came in, everything shifted. The pace picked up, the ball started to move, and the Warriors looked connected again on both ends. That wasn't coincidence, that was players choosing to lock in and play the right way. That's what Kerr wants to see in October. Not perfection, but commitment to the habits that win basketball games. Preseason habits are a mirror into a team's DNA. For a veteran-heavy group like Golden State, it's not about proving they can win a random game in early October, it's about proving they can still execute their brand of basketball. The Warriors' identity has always been built on discipline within chaos, motion offense, constant reads, endless movement, and communication. That system only works when everyone buys in, and preseason is where that buy-in gets tested. These games reveal who's absorbing the system, who's staying mentally sharp, and who's cutting corners. Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy have set that standard, but now it's on the younger guys, Kuminga, Podziemski, Moody, and the fringe players to carry it forward. When the stars sit, the question becomes, does the culture still hold? That's what the preseason is designed to answer. And that brings us to the most underrated part of preseason basketball: depth. When your regulars are playing limited minutes, your team's true composition gets exposed. Anybody can look strong when their starters are rolling, but the best organizations thrive because of their depth. That's what made this comeback against Portland such an encouraging sign. After the second unit's disastrous minus 61 stretch, it was the third stringers who clawed the team back and flipped the momentum. That's the kind of performance that builds confidence not just for those players, but for the coaching staff and veterans watching on the bench. It sends a message that this team has layers, that the Warriors aren't just a top-heavy roster leaning on its legends, but a deep, hungry squad that can compete no matter who's on the floor. Depth in the modern NBA is more valuable than ever. With load management, injuries, and back-to-backs, a team's ability to stay afloat without its stars often determines how their season goes. The Warriors know this better than anyone. That's why games like this matter, because they reveal who can step up when it's not Curry, Butler, or Draymond driving the energy. LJ Cryer showed he can lead on offense, Quintin Post showed he can stretch the floor and finish through contact, and Pat Spencer showed that hustle and intelligence can impact winning. These are the moments where Kerr figures out which combinations work, which lineups bring energy, and which guys can be trusted when it matters. That trust, built in October, is what wins you games in March and April. It also shows how aligned your organization really is. The Warriors front office has been emphasizing player development, and this kind of preseason showing validates that approach. When undrafted players and two-way guys look this composed, it reflects coaching, culture, and scouting all working together. The system that Steve Kerr has built allows players like Cryer and Richard to immediately plug in and understand their roles. You don't get that kind of cohesion by accident. It's a byproduct of structure. Preseason isn't just about testing players, it's about testing the entire organizational machine. Does the system still work when the stars rest? Against Portland, the answer was yes, emphatically. Defensive habits in particular are the most revealing this time of year. It's easy to overlook defensive breakdowns in preseason because the games don't count, but that's where bad habits are born. The Warriors' first half was full of those mistakes: slow help side rotations, ball watching, and missed box outs. But the group that closed the game changed that tone completely. You could see players communicating, switching seamlessly, contesting everything, and playing with controlled chaos. Those are championship habits, the kind that this dynasty was built on. And when you see them coming from guys who might not even make the roster, that's a powerful sign. It means the principles are ingrained deep enough that even fringe players understand what it means to play Warriors basketball. Momentum, energy, and identity all start with those defensive and communication habits. That's what makes preseason comebacks like this one so valuable. It's not about the scoreboard, it's about the belief that grows in that locker room afterwards. For the players who fueled that 50-point fourth quarter, this win isn't just a fun moment, it's proof they can play at this level. It gives the team something to build on heading into the final stretch of the preseason and eventually into opening night. Kerr can point to that quarter as the blueprint: pace, spacing, toughness, and unity. And that belief, when carried into the regular season, can be the difference between early season struggles and early season momentum. So while this may just go down as just another preseason game, it represents much more than that. It showed that even when the veterans struggle, the next wave of Warriors is ready to uphold the standard. It showed that the system still produces results regardless of who's in the lineup. Most importantly, it showed that the habits that define winning basketball, effort, communication, and trust, are still alive and well in Golden State. Preseason doesn't determine championships, but it defines who's ready to chase one. And after this comeback, it looks like the Warriors' depth, culture, and habits are right where they need to be heading into the year.